Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about how to calculate the diameter, circumference, and area of a circle if we already know what the radius is. So take a look at this problem here. The radius of a circle is 43 feet. So here I drew a little circle and you can see the radius is labeled as being 43 feet long. Calculate the diameter, circumference, and area. And we will be using 3.14 for pi, 3.14 being an approximation for pi. And we're going to have to show our work. Okay, so we know that the radius is 43 feet long. How can we calculate the diameter of this circle? Well, take a look over here at this picture that I have here. This is sort of like a map. And this tells us how to get from one place to another. So for example, we're starting over here at R because we already know the radius. And we want to get to D, which stands for diameter. So which road can we take? These arrows here are kind of like roads going between these letters. Which road can we take to get from the radius to the diameter? Well, we're going to follow this road, this arrow here that says times 2. So this is telling us that if we already know the radius and we want to figure out what the diameter of the circle is, we would have to multiply by 2 to get that diameter. And that makes sense because the radius of a circle goes from the exterior to the center, but the diameter goes all the way across. So the diameter is 2 times as long as the radius. So it makes sense that if we know what the radius is, we would have to multiply that number by 2 to find the diameter. So here's the work that we're going to show. If the radius is 43 feet long, we're just going to write 43 times 2, which is 86. And we just figured out that the diameter of this circle is 86 feet long. Let's put the units in there also. And let's also box our answer. Okay, so if it's 43 feet from here to here, then from here all the way to the other side, well, I should have drawn that better. Really, I should be going through the center. From here all the way to the other side would be 86 feet. Okay, so that we just talked about that. If we know the radius, we can find the diameter by multiplying by 2. Now, let's figure out what the circumference of this circle is. The circumference of a circle is the length all the way around it. Okay, now let's go back to the picture over here. We're starting with the radius and we want to get to the circumference C. So which road can we take? We can take this road down here. And this road says C equals 2 pi r. So that's one of the circle equations which we learned about in a previous video. We derived that in a previous video. And it makes sense that we're going to use this equation if we know the radius and we want to know the circumference, because this equation has r in it, which is the radius, which we know, and it also has c in it, which stands for circumference. That's what we're trying to find out. So it makes sense to use this equation over here because it has what we know and it also has what we're trying to find out. So I'm going to scroll down to here where it says if we know the radius, we can find the circumference by using c equals 2 pi r. So let's write that over here. C equals 2 pi r. We're just writing the equation down. Now we know what the radius is. The radius is 43 feet. So let's plug that in here. And we'll just keep the rest of the equation the way it was. So C equals 2 times pi times 43 now. Okay, now over here I wrote that we want to find the circumference in terms of pi. And then later we'll find the circumference without pi. What does that mean, finding the circumference in terms of pi? That just means that we're going to keep the pi in our answer. We're not going to multiply it out yet. So what we will multiply is the 2 and the 43, because even though they're not right next to each other, remember the commutative property of multiplication says that if things are getting multiplied together, we can multiply them in any order that we want. So even though this says 2 times pi times 43, we could do the 2 times the 43 first, and that's still okay. So now I'm going to write C is equal to, I'm going to draw lines right over here to indicate that I want to multiply 2 by 43, which is 86, and I'm going to keep the pi there. So the circumference with the pi still in there is 86 pi. That's the circumference in terms of pi. So let's write that over here. And let's put the units in there also. Feet. Circumference is one-dimensional, so it is going to be, the units are still going to be feet here, not square feet. And let's box our answer. Okay, now let's find the circumference without pi. In order to do that, it's actually very simple. We're just going to multiply these two things together. We're going to multiply that pi out. So this means 86 times pi. We're going to do 86 times pi except instead of actually using pi, we're going to use the approximation 3.14. So let's write 86 times 3.14. All right, and now let's go to a calculator just to do that. 86 times 3.14 will give us 270.04. Okay, and that's still feet. All right, so that's telling us that the length all the way around this circle, the circumference of that circle, I'm not doing a very good job there, but so all the way around is about 270.04 feet. Okay, I'm saying about because we did approximate when we used this approximation for pi. All right, so now let's move on to area. I'm going to go back to the picture up here. So starting with the radius, which road can we take to get to the A over here, which stands for area, of course? Well, we're going to take this road up here. And what's the name of this road? The name of this road is A equals pi r squared. So that's another one of the equations that we derived in a previous video. And it should make sense to you why we would choose this equation to use rather than this equation or this equation, because we know the radius, we're trying to find the area. This equation over here has r in it for radius, and it also has a in it for area. So it makes sense for us to use this equation if we know the radius and we want to know the area. All right, so if we know the radius, we can find the area by using A equals pi r squared. Let's go ahead and do that. Let me move this guy up a little bit, get out of our way there. That was the circumference. Okay, so now I'm going to write A equals pi r squared. Okay, and what do we know? We know the radius is 43 feet, right? This video is all about knowing the radius and using it to get other stuff. So we're going to plug 43 in for r, and now we have A is equal to pi times 43 to the second power. Do not forget this exponent over here. Okay, it's not just 43, it's 43 to the second power. 43 squared is another way of saying that. All right, so 43 squared means 43 times itself. So 43 times 43. So let's do that over here. 43 times 43 is 1,849. Another way to do that on a calculator is if you happen to have a button like this that says x squared, then you can click on that and then it'll automatically just square it for you. But what it's really doing is just 43 times 43. So again, we got 1,849. So the area is equal to 1,849. And don't forget that we still have this pi over here. So let's keep that next to that number. Okay, that's very important. It's the area is not 1,849 square feet. The area is 1,849 times pi square feet. That's still in there. And for this over here, we're just going to write our area in terms of pi. So we will keep the pi in there for this one over here. So let's write that 1,849 pi, and the units would now be square feet. So we're going to write the symbol for feet and then put an exponent of 2 above it. Area is 2-dimensional, so we need that exponent of 2 above the feet there. I'm just going to box the answer. Okay, and now let's find the area without pi. So now we want to write the answer without keeping the pi in there like that. So once again, it's very simple. We're just going to take these two numbers and multiply them together. Except we're going to be using an approximation for pi. We're going to be using, over here I said to use 3.14, right? So let's do that. And you can go to a calculator to do this. I already have this number on the screen, so I'm just going to type times 3.14. And I get 5,805.86. And I'm just going to write that again over here. By the way, if you're doing one of the activities for this, you've probably noticed that I seem to be writing everything twice. So I wrote this number over here, and then I wrote it again down here. I wrote this over here, and then I wrote it again down here. If you just want to show your work and then just write it, and then just write the final answer over here, instead of writing it here and then again over here, that's fine also. Do try to put the units in though. Let's get some practice putting the units in. So feet for circumference, feet for diameter. Well, if we started with feet, then the diameter and the circumference would also be feet, and the area would be square feet. All right, so area means the space inside of that circle. We just figured out that the area is 5,805.96 square feet. So square feet, so that literally means that if we had some really small squares here and each square was 1 foot long and 1 foot high, we would be able to fit about 5,800 of those little squares inside of this circle. Okay? All right, so that is it, and have a great day.